Last time we took a look at the Z-Tech factory map. Today we're going to look at both Aqua and Garden Center. We're going to do them both together since they're basically the same map, so I guess you get to see how it's different between both games, and what stuff was added in Garden Warfare 2. So we're going to start with a zombie spawn point, as you can see. Unlike the Garden Center, they replaced the lake with a toxic lake instead, which gets cut off by the main entrance. You can also see that there's just mainly trees everywhere, along with different gravestones and that instead of houses. As you go through, you can see there's a pathway that connects to the entrance that leads out to nothing. Going off to one of the sides, you can see here that the road is blocked off, and if we take the camera behind it, you can see that the road goes a bit further back and then cuts off, along with there being a bunch of different random objects hidden outside the map. You can also see just behind the buildings what's hidden there too. You can see there's a bit of a pathway, a bunch of trees, and then a bunch of random buildings that probably don't have any collision. If you've seen the Z-Tech factory video, you might be familiar with these buildings, since I'm pretty sure they're all the same ones that are used in that map too. Going on to the other side, there's two cannons hidden on the top of these buildings. Now, you might think they're just props, but both of them are usable in game through different means. I'll show on screen how to access both of them now. You can see here how the old Garden Center sign is all destroyed and falling on the floor, and how overgrown the area is too. You can also see how the cannons sit on top of the buildings too, and one of them is clipping through one of the other objects on the building as well. Not far from the cannons, you can see just outside the map the last remaining things for the plants. Once we move on to the Garden Center, you'll be able to see how this has changed between both games. So I'm going to show you what goes on inside some of the buildings before we move on to another part of the maps. So you can see a lot of them have different props just scattered around inside of them to give that feeling that they are fully fledged buildings. Obviously they're not, they're just a small little room. So we're going to move on to the arcade, which is probably one of my favourite parts of the map. You can see on the sign they have a little imp on the coin, which I found quite interesting. I'm going to show you what each of the games look like up close real quick, because you normally can't get this close up to them. You can see the little football table game has both imps and all-stars in it, with them being very low poly and looking incredibly weird. The all-stars don't even have their eyes, since obviously you won't be seeing them from the direction of their front in the game, normally just the imps. These two games don't have much going on, but they do seem to use artwork from both Garden Warfare 1's concept art and also some stuff that looks like it might have been from the DS version of PvZ1. I'm not too sure, but the Zombot at the top looks kind of familiar, so it could be from the DS. Finally, for the main games, you can see we've got a claw machine here. Funnily enough, I never noticed there was brains inside of there. I always thought it was just for plushies. You can also see on the plushies themselves they actually have tags on them, which I found quite interesting. There isn't much going on with the theatre, but I found it quite interesting how the tiles go out quite a lot more, even though there's no need for it to, so it could be possible it was meant to have some sort of interior design that ended up getting scrapped. I'm not really too sure. Now for the DJ room. You normally can't see all the things on the desk up close, but if you have a look here, you can see there's a Chomper pizza box on the desk along with one for the zombies as well. Inside here there's a bunch of different costumes for astronauts that you can see. It's actually a modified version of the original astronaut model from Garden Warfare 2. In this room you can see a bunch of the space crystals the zombies are collecting throughout the different maps in the game. Just next to that there's a road that's normally blocked off, but we're going to take the camera just out of bounds and show what's actually there. You can see there's a road that just goes into the side of the building, and there's also a bunch of different buildings with billboards on them that could be very much taken from the old Brain Street map. There's also a bunch of buildings just behind that looks like it was taken from Main Street with just different colour schemes, because it looks like it's more of a hotel, which is the theme of the second objective. This is entirely speculation though. I'm going to give you a better look at the rocket that's behind the plant spawn. You can see it's just a regular rocket that I think was taken from Moonbase Z. Not far from there's another road that leads out of bounds. This one would normally connect to the Chomptown map if this was Garden Warfare 1, since a lot of the maps in that game are connected. You can see this building here that has stairs going up, it has no windows on the other side. I believe this is something taken from the Backyard Battleground. And there's also a random billboard here that you would normally not see in gameplay. I'd assume it's just put there to give the impression that there's more stuff on the other side. This is the main road that normally leads to Chomptown, and there is an asset in here that I found quite interesting. Here you can see there's an asset taken from Main Street Point 3, and it's been retextured to be in the zombie theme, so I'd assume this was taken from Brain Street. It's the left side of the staircase that takes you up to where one of the teleporters would normally be. You can kind of see the layout here. You can see on the walls there's some graffiti that's just completely cut off by another model, along with there being a random logo on the wall as well. Since this was definitely taken from Brain Street, they'd obviously not change any of the textures, just slap it in there. Since players will never see this anywhere normally, it doesn't really matter. A lot of these models here are all copy pasted from I think the Backyard Battleground. You can see these have props inside of them, so it's more likely they've copy pasted it from another map instead of just slapping an outside a map asset in here. Now for the main Aqua Center building. You can see in the windows there's multiple different marine biologist guns and backpacks and the different things that go on the top of the dolphin. The design of the gun is actually the level 1 version from Garden Warfare 1 instead of the fully maxed out version that you get when you get all the upgrades. It's a bit weird because all the other weapons I've seen, like foot soldiers, are all the maxed out ones, and also the Garden Warfare 2 design, so it's a bit odd to see a level 1 weapon in one of these maps. Inside you can see there's more weaponry and different zombie tech things just scattered around one of the rooms, along with the aquarium on the other side. You can see all the different fish that are in the aquarium part. These are taken from Z-Tech Factory in Zomburbia mostly. I'll show you what each of the fish look like real quick and then we'll move on. It looks like there's some sort of footprints in the ground as well, which is quite a cool little detail that PopCat put in. So finally for the Aqua Center, I found that there's a random chair just up on the top of this thing here. I don't know why this is here, but it's quite funny nonetheless. So now I'm going to move on to the Garden Center, and I'm going to show you what's in the Garden Center's Out of Bounds area, and then I'll also show a bit of a comparison with what's in the Aqua Center as well, so you can kind of see a big difference between the two maps. So let's just jump straight into it. So we're going to start off on the same side we started off with Aqua Center, but this time it is the plant spawn instead of the zombies. You can see there's a fully clear lake instead of one that's covered in toxic. There's also a bunch of houses, walls, pathways, trees, just a bunch of stuff to kind of build the world. Next we've got the part where the cannons are in Aqua Center. You can see this part's not as interesting as it is in Garden Warfare 2, with it just having mostly just random stuff slapped around. And you can also see the out of bounds area as well, with the same building layout, but I believe every single one of the buildings is different between both games, even though this is meant to be the only plant side of the map. Now onto the other side of the plant spawn. You can see here there's just another few buildings, and if we take the camera just out of bounds, you can see there's a road. It goes around the corner. There's not as much stuff scattered around as there is on an Aqua Center, obviously because it's meant to be a lot more tidy, but you can see the road goes along and then goes into a bush, and that's where it stops. You can also see a few of the buildings that are outside the map here as well. Since there's no arcade on this map, I'll just show you inside the walls of where it would be, so you can kind of see how it would have worked if it was in this map. Here's the other end of the map outside. You can see here there's a bunch of different buildings just like on Aqua Center, but obviously with different billboards. Now I'm going to show you the connection between Garden Center and Chomp Town. I don't have Chomp Town loaded in here, but you can see all the different pathways that lead to it and the amount of different buildings there is too. A lot of this stuff is more polished than it is in Garden Warfare 2, simply down to the fact you would have been expected to walk down this road to get to Chomp Town. Obviously the connections are all scrapped, so a lot of it doesn't have collision. So all of this is actually a part of Chomp Town. If you look in the map just outside of it, you can see this area by default, but for some reason it's loaded in with Garden Center too. Along with a few other assets as well, what you've seen just like the road for instance and this floating sign, that's all part of Chomp Town. It's very strange that a DLC map is linked to a base game map though, considering Chomp Town was added after launch to my knowledge. This is what the inside of the garden center looks like. You can see it's mainly just a bunch of garden props around, similar to how it is for Aqua Center with all the weaponry. These bags here were removed in Garden Warfare 2, and I think the reason why is because they messed with AI pathfinding. When I was working on the Graveyard Ops in Garden Warfare 1 mod that I was making a while back, I noticed that the AI tended to get stuck on these bags quite a lot when I played this map, so maybe that was why these were removed. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like, maybe subscribe if you want to. I plan on covering Sandy Sands, Boney Island, and a few other maps that are based off the different locations and seas of time next on this series, so keep an eye out for that. If you haven't checked out the other episodes in this series, I recommend you do so because there's a few different things that are mentioned across each of these videos. But with all that out of the way, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.